Hey everybody, so today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. So there are many different strategies that you could use to do this, such as a number line or a type diagram, but today we are going to focus on finding a common denominator, and once you have found that common denominator or two fractions that have the same denominator, then you'll be able to add them no problem. Let's get started. Let's start by cubing our directions to make sure we understand what the problem is asking us. First, find a common denominator. Then, write the complete number sentence. So the first thing I'm going to notice when I look at this problem is that these two fractions have different denominators. So I cannot add them as they stand. However, I can find an equivalent fraction for one of them or both of them to make a common denominator so that we can add them. So looking at these thirds and sixths, I know that thirds can become sixths. So I'm going to find an equivalent fraction, set up my story. Okay, the beginning of my story will be 1/3, and I'm going to change 1/3 to make it sixths. So at the end of the story, the end of the day, my equivalent fraction will be something sixths. So 3 times 2 is 6, and what you do on the bottom, you do on the top. 1 times 2 is 2. So I now know I am not using 1/3, I am using 2/6. So I found a common denominator. Next, I need to write the complete number sentence. Not 1/3 anymore. 2/6 plus 1/6 equals 3/6. Let's try another type of problem. Once again, we'll cube to figure out what the problem is asking us to do. Estimate to determine if the sum is between 0 and 1 or 1 and 2. Find a common denominator and write the complete number sentence. So there's a few things we have to do with this problem, but before we even begin, we're going to estimate. This is going to help us decide if the answer we get in the end makes sense. So we have to look at these fractions, 1/3 and 1/6, and determine if I add those two pieces together, will my final answer be between 0 and 1 whole, or between 1 whole and 2 wholes? So I have 1/3, and if I think about fraction tiles, which we've used in class, I see 1/3 here, and we are adding on another sixth. Okay, so if I'm adding those two things together, I'm going to get to about this mark. So if I'm putting 1/3 and 1/6 together, I'm still not all the way to the other end to reach 1 whole. I haven't made it there yet. Okay, I still have a big section missing. So I know my answer is going to be less than 1 whole. But before I can add to make sure, I need to find that common denominator. So once again, thirds and sixths, I'm going to change thirds into sixths. Same process as last time. 3 times 2 is 6. What you do on the bottom, you do on the top. And so my common denominator is 6. My equivalent fraction is 2/6. So I'm not going to write 1/3 anymore. We've changed it. 2/6 plus 1/6 equals 3/6.